Greetings and welcome to Bubble Hearthing. I'm Bubble and you're fantastic. Today, with a clean cut and an empty mind, I'm going to be reviewing all of the white cards for the new set that's coming out very soon for Magic the Gathering. It is Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, placed 1200 years past the former Kamigawa. We are running into future tech as well as some purists. The spirits are back, we got dragons, we got artifacts, we have sagas that are also creatures, that are also enchantments. Well, they're already enchantments, but now they're enchantment creatures. Okay, there's a lot to go through. Let us begin. We start with Ancestral Katana as a 2-mana artifact. An equipment creature. No, not a creature. We'll get those later. Just an equipment. Whenever a samurai or warrior, very specific there, you control attacks alone against specific, you may pay 1. When you do, attach Ancestral Katana to it. And the equipped creature gets +2/+1, or you can just pay 3 to equip it to whoever you want, whenever you want at sorcery speed. This card is okay. The 1 seems pretty nice, but then you have to attack alone with the creature. +2/+1 is a sizable buff, but it's asking quite a bit. I don't think this will see any play in standard. Usually with white, you kind of want to go wide. There are no... This is the closest thing we have to like Exalted, and it's really not anywhere close. So I don't think this will make a whole, attack alone sort of thing work. I guess this is supposed to be as opposed to ninjas, where you want to go wide and, attack, get someone through, and then ninjutsu someone in there, because that's back. This is more samurais or warriors, which are, well, samurais I believe are counter to the ninjas, where you want to have like a one-man army, essentially. So, in limited, this card's okay. I would put it at like a, about a 2 out of 5. I think it's alright, and you could probably get it to work once, maybe twice, but even if the creature dies or you can't do the 1-cost equip, paying 3 is alright. You can throw it on some creature later on, maybe it has some sort of evasion, you'll be alright. But in standard, this card's not so good. Yosei the Morning Star is a card from the Kamigawa of old. Yes, there was a cycle back in the day, one of each color, of these spirit dragons that had an effect when they died, and they kind of set the stage for a lot of... They left a really big impact on the set. That's kind of what they're known for. So, in reference to that, we have Owl the Dawn Sky. Owl, Ao, you tell me. Which is the white dragon spirit legendary creature, costs 5, and it has flying and vigilance. It's a 5/4. All those stats were in relatively random order. Apologies. And just like the Yosei of old, this also has a trigger that happens on death. You can either look at the top 7 cards of your library, put any number of non-land permanents with total mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, or you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on each permanent you control, that's a creature, or a vehicle. The vehicle thing is just kind of nice, probably to keep it more relevant to the set, because there are more vehicles in the set than previous sets, I guess, aside from maybe like Aether Revolt and Kaladesh and stuff. So yeah, there's a decent number of vehicles here, so that could be relevant. And let's see, if you're going wide, that second one is pretty cool. Let me just say right off the bat, for either ability here, even if you play this and you don't have anything, you hit nothing with the first one, you get an empty board with the second one, in limited, this card's still fantastic. 5 mana, 5/4, flying vigilance. Cool, alright, awesome, bomb, you got it. In standard, assuming you're making your deck to work with this and not just throwing it in because, ooh, shiny, which is a perfectly reasonable way to do it, don't get me wrong. But looking at the top 7, putting value 4, it's not bad. It does help insulate you a bit from board wipes or just removal in general. But in a deck where you want to make the most of things, you probably want to be able to use either ability, and that means you're going wide, or you're playing a lot of vehicles for reasons, but you also want to go wide with creatures to crew the vehicles, right? Probably. So this is okay. I think it's pretty good, but 5 mana is a lot to invest in something that doesn't really do too much that turns the board. It can block, don't get me wrong, it can block, and I very much so enjoy the clip when someone sacrifices this either to fling or some other effect to pump the squad to then go for lethal. Fling would be fantastic. Fling, deal 5, buff everything by 2, attack every game. Yeah, but if you can't do that, barring that situation, I mean, this could be a fine Boros aggro card if there's a fling again. I don't know if there is. There usually is, but this could be a time when there isn't. I think we have like the giant that can throw things. Ugh, whatever. The first ability is the one that appears the most flashy, but since it says non-land, you're going to probably have a lot of misses there. but you can potentially insulate the board again. So I'll say like a solid 3 out of 5 in standard. I don't think it's like the best card, honestly. I think it's okay. I wouldn't overhype this though. Moving on, Banishing. I keep saying Banishing, but it is Banishing. I don't know why. Slash. That tells you I've already tried this once before, and then the video got messed up. Anywho, it costs specifically 2 white. For a sorcery, destroy up to 1 target artifact, enchantment, or tapped creature. Then if you control an artifact and an enchantment, create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. And it says, in the name of Kyodai, be gone! Thought, I guess. That would be the next line. See, that was the old text. The modern text would actually add that one. Anywho, in limited, this is going to probably be your premier removal in white if you're not running any sort of black or red to actually, you know, kill whatever you want. But the fact that this is a set with a lot of artifacts, a lot of enchantments, and of course creatures are creatures, they're going to be there too. Hard to make a set without a whole lot of creatures. Enter War of the Spark, where the creatures are planeswalkers, the planeswalkers are in every pack, and Bolas was in charge. I know. And Gideon died for nothing. No, but that is pretty darn good. So if you're running mono white, blue white, or green and white, then this will be a very important card for you to have in your limited format there. And don't really worry about that second ability. Just a 2-mana removal is solid. If you get the extra stuff, that's just fantastic too. Odds are you'll have an artifact or enchantment or two, because there's some pretty decent sagas in the set that could trigger it, but don't necessarily have to. Similar thing in standard. However, in standard, you usually want things that definitely always kill, especially with creatures. You don't want to have the creature become tapped, especially if it's a sorcery, punch you in the face, then your turn comes around and you spend the mana. That feels pretty bad. So the only reason I would see someone playing this is if they are in mono white and they want the removal. That is not Portable Hole, which costs 1 less and largely does the same thing. Or they can really trigger, you know, whoever made the standard deck I'm displaying this can reliably trigger that second ability where you make the 2/2 samurai and add to your board presence while taking away from your opponents. So if you can do that, which could be tricky, but again, vehicles are a thing. We already have, whatchamacallit, Portable Hole is an artifact, as opposed to an enchantment, so that's already something there. And we have other cards that do things, I don't know. And we have some enchantments, we have some sagas that are looking pretty good here. So there are ways to make this work. This could definitely work. I would say in standard, like a 2.5 out of 5. I think you should see some play. Odds are if you're playing like a mid-range or a more control deck, you're not going to want this because, again, it doesn't remove things at instant speed, and it only removes one thing. Usually you want to go for like a little more value, but hey, not a bad card. I'm happy with it. Befriending the Moths is our first saga, the first of many, I assure you. It is a 4-mana saga with 3 chapters. The first 2 chapters, target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains flying, and it takes to the skies. And for the 3rd chapter, you flip it over, transform it, and you acquire a 2/4 flyer. Kind of bums me out there at the end. You know, like, I'm expecting, okay, the first chapter's meh, the second chapter's meh, but the 3rd chapter really brings down every, like, hope that you had this card was actually going to be playable. Yeah, this, in limited, is okay. I definitely would potentially cut this unless you had some sort of enchantment synergy. The good thing to note about these sagas, and they all flip, is that if you have any enchantment ETB, enters the battlefield, triggers something, this will enter the battlefield twice, provided it gets to that 3rd chapter, because you play it once, enchantment comes in, and then 3rd chapter flips over, you know, exiles first, then returns flipped, and you have an enchantment creature, so you have more enters the battlefield stuff going on there. But otherwise, this card's just not that good. I don't know. Bad. Limited 1 out of 5. Standard. Nope. Blade Blizzard Kitsune. Ah, there we are. Is a 3-mana 2/2 Fox Ninja with double strike and also ninjutsu. That's right. I think I mentioned it before, but I didn't mention it before. I'm mentioning it now. Ninjutsu is back. So I will go more into detail about the specific nuances of the set and the mechanics and things in a video at the end after I actually look at all of the cards. But essentially, you declare your attackers. If something isn't blocked, you pay 4 mana, slap this down instead. You bounce a creature and you put this down. There you go. And it's attacking and fantastic. So for 3 mana, a 2/2 double strike is alright. It's just mediocre. It's not great. Standard would see 0 play, and limited it would see alright play. It's kind of like a grizzly bear, but a little fancier. If you have ways to buff it with equipment, that's cool. And there is a decent amount of equipment in the set, but still in standard there are better options for equipping things. If you want to be aggressive, I don't think 3 mana is the place to really, play a 2/2 like this. Pardon my eyeball. So, yeah, I think standard is useless. But in limited, it's okay. I don't think you're often going to be paying the ninjutsu cost, because bouncing a creature is pretty expensive to get 4 damage in, unless you really want to pay the extra mana and then equip something else afterwards when you have to have the survivor's whole turn to attack again. Yeah, that's not really what I'm after. Not really what I'm liking here. So, yeah, not so great there. Born to Drive is a 3 mana enchantment aura. It is not a creature. You see those 2 people on the card? They're not part of the card. As long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it gets +1/+1 for each creature and/or vehicle you control. So that's kind of nice. You went wide and suddenly this one thing is huge. Cool. Reminds me a little bit of, what was that one from, was it Eldraine, where it gets a bonus for each enchantment that's on the board, like each aura. I forget what it's called. Something glistening, all that glitters. All that glitters. There we go. Got it. This is not quite near that power level, but it's not bad. And channel is another keyword that we have here. So, channel, the way you activate the channel ability of a card. It is an activated ability, as I just said there. So, cards like Counterspell, specifically Counterspell, cards like Cancel, I guess. Hell, even cards that are now banned, like, what was the one, the exiles spells from the stuff. Anyway, let me actually not go that far. But yeah, things like Counterspell and Cancel. You cannot counter this card because this is an activated ability. You would need something more along the lines of Stifle. Remember Stifle? Painful times, I know. Okay, stop remembering Stifle. Go back to a happy place. So, for 3 mana, you pay the 3, you discard this card from your hand. You're not casting it. It's being discarded. And the effect is you create 2 1/1 colorless pilot creature tokens with the creature crew's vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. Not terrible. And it's the same cost as Born to Drive, so you can kind of pick which one you want. Either you already have a board that's kind of wide, so you can equip something and get a good buff, or you don't have a board, and this is 3 mana, make 2 1/1s, and vehicles are easier to crew. Yeah, that's not really all that bad. I think this is actually a very solid card, especially if you have a good amount of vehicles. There are some in the set, like I said before. They should not be hard to come by. So in limited, I would put this up there at like a 3 out of 5. I think it's good in almost any situation. Also, keep in mind that activated abilities, unless otherwise stated, are always instant speed. So you can just do this on your opponent's turn, and that's pretty sweet. Or at the end of the turn, if your board got wiped, cool, I'll play this and try to rebuild. Not bad. And odds are the vehicles are not, going crazy. You can also instant speed. I'm gonna make, if your opponent declares attacks and you have a vehicle that isn't crewed right now, and you have like nothing else on the board, instant speed. Play 3. Play this thing. I have these 2 things I can crew for a maximum of 6 this turn. Tap 1 or 2, crew a few vehicles, make some awesome blocks, and your opponent's like, what? Yeah, nice little trick there. In standard, I think this is too slow. It's not super slow, because, +1/+1, that actually aura ability is pretty sweet there. So I'll put it at like a 2.5. This could see some play. It's kind of expensive for what it does, but it might do a lot. Brilliant Restoration. Expensive card. 3 and white. A total of 7 mana. 4 of which has to be white. So you're playing this in mono white or white splash something, but mostly mono white. Return all artifact and enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. That is a very strong ability. Let me bring you back to let me bring you back to Eldraine again. So, the card I'm thinking of that you might be familiar with is Dance of the Manse, where it cost blue and a white and X. And you brought back X many... Was it as many you wanted, or was it X many artifacts or enchantments from your graveyard, where X was where they cost extra less, and if X was 6 or more, then they were also creatures, I think, or if it was, X was 6 or more, then they were also like 4/4s, which was the, there was a few decks built around that, usually Doom Foretold, that kind of focused around that as their win condition. The actual Doom Foretold ability was like a secondary potential win condition. This is not that. This costs more, does not make them creatures, but it does put them all on the board. And notably, all of the sagas in this set will flip over to become creatures as they survive, so somehow you're getting creatures. They could be artifact creatures, they can be enchantments that become creatures, and there's a lot going on here, but for 7 mana, that's the big thing. Dance of the Manse could just cost 6, was like a usual time to cast it, or less. You could do it whenever, you know. This is a whole lot to last too. You need to have some board wipes going out before this, and unfortunately, a very nice board wipe that is new coming out in the set, in white, of all things, exiles instead of just destroying things. So this would make the two do not play very well. This is what we call a non-bow in the business, you know. Okay, without talking about this card too much longer, I think that in Unlimited you have to be basically mono white to play this, or maybe one of the color. 3-color decks, don't even try. But if you're mono white and you picked up a lot of enchantments, like the thing, this is a rare, so this is probably going to be first pick or never, and maybe a first or second. I don't think this is going to be a card that you're actively taking unless it's like pack 3, first or second pick, and you went heavy into the artifacts and enchantments for some reason. Yeah, and if you did, that might not be a great deck for you. So yeah, this is like kind of a, you know, disappointing rare, I believe, in limited. In standard, yeah, you can play with this. Will it win the game for you on the spot? Probably not, but keep in mind that artifacts and enchantments are pretty resilient against board wipes. So it might. It just might. Although it's specifically in one of the colors that was not part of Emergent Ultimatum, which makes it a little less likely to be relevant, because that was, Sultai? Black, blue, and green, which is very good at sticking on the board and dragging games out a little longer. White's more, I'm going to punch you down immediately, or I'm going to be part of another color that controls the board. So, yeah. In standard, I put it at like a 1.5. I want to see it make some waves. I don't think that it will. I think if it costs like 5 would be insane, 6 would be reasonable, 7's too much, and the 4 whites is just, ugh. Cloudsteel Kirin. Our first one of these. So, we have a 3-mana, 3/2 artifact creature equipment Kirin. Yes, where the artifacts are creatures, the equipments are creatures, and they're both equipments and creatures at the same time. Not actually true, but kind of. So, it is a 3/2 with flying. For 3, okay? The equipped creature has flying, and you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. Oh, how lovely. So, how this works is instead of having an equip cost, like most equipment does, I think all equipment did until now, it has a reconfigure cost. What that is very similar to an equip cost. You can pay the cost, and this will become, you can attach this to a creature you control, and it will become an equipment. That's why it says equipped creature has, you know, blah, blah, blah. If it is not equipped to a creature, then it is itself a creature instead. What this does, similar to Bestow back in the original Theros days, is you can, when you put this on a creature, it basically protects it from board wipes. It negates the whole 2-for-1ing when you use a regular aura, like, say, Born to Drive, and then your opponent just kills it, and then, well, they kill your creature, and this is gone as well. No. If that happened to this, they kill the creature. Hopefully you don't immediately lose the game because of that second ability, and you get the Cloudsteel Kirin, just pops out like, hey, I'm here. So there's that. Also, if you do equip it, you can pay 5 to unequip it, essentially, and have it come back as a creature, which is nice. Okay, now that we went over reconfigure. So, 3-mana, 3/2 flyer, perfectly reasonable and limited, nothing really terribly wrong with that. And in standard, not great. 5 mana for that ability. I feel like if you're really trying to get that ability to go off, hear me out, Book of Exalted Deeds. Not really the same effect there. It has to be a land instead of... Does it have to be a land? It has to be a creature. And Fabled Passage just got banned, so it's probably not going to be a land, but it has to be something. And... let's see. Does it have to be a creature? This also has to equip to a creature, which is much... You know, it's still kind of vulnerable. At least the book does other things as well. This is okay. I don't think it's fantastic. And other than the whole, like, you can't lose, your opponent can't win, it just gives it flying. Not great, not great at all. I think that 3 mana for a 3/2 is okay, but then you want to be more aggressive, I think, and this is leaning towards a long game if you're doing that second part, or just trying to outrate. No. No. 2 out of 5 in standard. It's okay, maybe. In limited, it's cool. 3 out of 5 there. It's not bad. Dragonfly suit. Ah, there we go. Now we have a vehicle. We finally got to one. So 3 mana, 3/2 vehicle. Not a creature. Until you crew it, and then it becomes a creature. The crew cost is just 1. So just simple, just kind of a pack filler card, but not bad, not terrible. There are worse cards to get. Yeah, it's cool. And standard is not worth anything at all because a 3 mana 3/2 that is not a creature right away feels bad. You're paying a lot. Like the cost of this being the cost of this being a 3 mana 3/2 flyer is that it's a vehicle, so it's not always a creature. That's basically it. Geez, and that's not nice. I would have rather just had this be a 4 mana 3/2 flyer with no cost there, but it's an artifact also. Limited is alright. I would say like a 1.5, maybe just a 1, if you have vehicle or artifact synergy, sure. If not, this isn't often going to be something you're gonna put in your deck. And in standard, it's not good at all. Ah, that's a name I have to pronounce now. Aegonjo. There we go, yeah. Aegonjo Exemplar. Nailed it. 2 mana, 2/1 enchantment creature. Hey, there we go. We're after those enchantment creatures again. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Again, basically exalted for those particular creature types. It's okay. It's not great. I don't think you would want to put this exactly in an aggressive deck at all, where you want to go wide with these guys, but only attack with 1. Okay, not really super fancy there. Usually, you want to go wide and attack wide. So, meh. Limited if you really happen to have a lot of not humans, but a lot of samurais or warriors. Okay, it's not the worst 2-drop in the world. And if you have any constellation effects where you want enchantments to be on the board, sure, he's your guy. In standard, he's not anything. Maybe I'm gonna give it a 0.5. I don't think it's completely irrelevant just because it is an enchantment creature, 2 mana 2/1 with upside, but I don't think this is really gonna. I don't think the effect is really gonna do much. I think it's gonna get more value out of being a cheap enchantment creature than having the buff effect, if it has any value at all. Era of Enlightenment is a 2 mana saga. The first chapter is just Scry 2. Take a look. Maybe, maybe not. The second chapter, you gain 2 life. Cool. The third chapter, it flips over and becomes the Hand of Enlightenment. A 2/2 with first strike. Oh, okay. Sure, it's very mediocre. It's a good intro to sagas. Like, okay, look at what we can do. We can scry. That's usually a blue thing. We can gain life. That's very much so a white thing. We can have a first striker. That's a white and a red thing, here and there. It's cool. It's all right. Does a little bit of a few things. Nothing really fantastically. So limited, I'd say like a 2 out of 5. It's okay. In standard, no, just no. Farewell! Yes, this is the one that I mentioned. There's the white board wipe that really wants everything to go. Have you ever had that kind of fire sale? Everything must go! And this is how it happened. For 6 mana, you get to choose 1 or more. And there are 4 options here. You can exile all artifacts, and/or exile all creatures, and/or, for the logic gate people that appreciate that, exile all enchantments, final and/or exile all graveyards. So this, you just determine what you want to be out of the game. If you are running a whole bunch of, your opponent's creatures aren't really a big deal, but the artifacts are, and you got the creatures locked up, cool. No, worth noting here, it does not say planeswalkers or lands. This, like, kind of, the thing. Those are the 6 types that are usually relevant. 6 things, 6 zones, I guess. I don't know. So, yeah, if it was exile all lands, hello Armageddon, how do you do? Good to see you again, don't know why you're here. And planeswalkers could make sense, okay, Elder Spell, but not really. So let's see, though. It hits most of the relevant areas, most of the relevant things that you have here. So yeah, decent, very decent board wipe. If you get this in limited, absolutely, play it. I think it's basically a 5 out of 5. You play towards it, you see it in your hand, you wipe your opponent's everything, and then you proceed to win the game. Hopefully you have a few ends tied up, like maybe you have some artifacts and they have nothing, maybe you have some sagas, enchantment creatures, and well, Enchantment creatures will get hit by 2 other things, so yeah. But yeah, I think Unlimited still, maybe 4 to 5. Maybe 4 to 5. Because, like, you know, board wipes hurt you too sometimes. In Standard, yeah, I think they'll see some play in some sort of, you know, control deck, obviously. I love control. I love Esper control in particular. I'm wearing my Esper colors right now, the blue, the white, and the black. I don't have a little mascot on hand right now. It is in the living room because he was watching the TV with me. You know, we were playing some games and, you know, we were spending some quality time. So, yes, but yeah, just a pretty good card. I definitely see this seeing some play. It could be too slow. There could be plenty of games where, you know, this sits in your hand and you're waiting to play it and then you lose in turn 5. And you feel bad, but still gonna see some play, right? Probably. So for that, yeah, like a 3 out of 5 in Standard and a 4 out of 5 limited. In Golden Tail Disciple. Okay, here we go. A 3 mana, 2/3 enchantment creature, Fox Muggle lifelink. It's okay. Not much to say here. It's fine. Limited, it's like a 1.5, maybe 2 out of 3 if you have any way to buff things, because lifelink is nice to help prolong the game, and in Standard it's useless. Oh, yes. What is this now, a Honden? This is back in Kamigawa. We don't have this card now. We do not. But it is a shrine, and we've had those a little recently. So, whereas in the past we had the Honden cycle, and then more recently we had the Sanctums, which were more shrines back in M21. I don't know why they brought them into M21, but they did. We now have the Go Shintai cycle. That pause there was the hyphen. You gotta wait. You get to Go Shintai. And these are the new cycle of shrines, which just makes everyone all giddy. Ooh, shrine enthusiasts rejoice. Also have a hard time saying their name. For 4 mana, you get a 1/3 legendary enchantment creature. All the new shrines are legendary enchantment creatures, as opposed to just legendary enchantments. This one has vigilance, and at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1, just 1. If you do, you make a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token for each shrine you control. So, the 4 cost for a 1/3 vigilance is absolutely terrible, which makes it largely unplayable in Standard. Completely unplayable in Standard, in fact. This card is bad in Standard. But at least at the beginning of your end step, you can make a 1/1. And you only have to pay 1 to do that effect. Also does affect the board that way. In Limited, the only reason I'm saying this could have some play, like, I would put this at probably a 1.5, 2 out of 5. Only 2 out of 5 if you have other shrines. 1 out of 5 otherwise, because although this can just generate a board for you, 1/1s are not crazy relevant. You know, they're usually easy enough to deal with, and that only comes into play either you did it on turn 5 and you paid for the end, or turn 4 and then you pay for it turn 5. And I really don't want to say turn 4 make a 1/3 vigilance pass just to start spitting out 1/1s later on. Yeah, that's bad. It feels really bad. I wish it had some better stats, or just cost less. I don't know if it really had to cost this much in order for it to be balanced, but otherwise it's really cool. It's also easier to remove because it's a creature, so I don't think that was necessary, but hey. Hotshot mechanic. You know what? For a little while, I thought this card was fantastic. Then I looked at how many. This card is fantastic. Let me say that for a bit, because I wanted to go through and pick. Spoiler: I did actually decide on a favorite card for each color. This was a contender. 1 mana artifact creature, 2/1 Fox Pilot. It can crew vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. It specifically says 2 greater and not just 4, because if it got buffed somehow, then it would increase that way. So if it's had a +1/+1 counter on it, then it could crew up to, it would pay 5 for a crew cost, basically. It would contribute 5 power. Now then, the reason I think this card's amazing, and was almost my pick for the best white card in the set, is that it's a 1-drop. There are a lot of 1-drops in this set, by the way. I don't know why exactly they did that, but geez. And I always say, I think I've said it in every single review. If not, I should have. If anything costs 1, and especially if anything costs 0, pay attention to the card. Even if it doesn't do a whole lot, it's still worth noting 1 mana is not a lot. You can weave that into almost any turn, anywhere. You can make it work. 1-drops are powerful. And this one does a very relevant thing. Not only that, but it's a relevant typing. it being an artifact is fantastic for any sort of artifact matters, almost affinity decks, actual affinity decks, and other sets, like in other formats, rather. Do not ignore this card. Worst case is a 1-mana 2/1. That's aggressive. That's fine. And you want to be aggressive with this kind of thing if you're going to crew vehicles and try to punch for more than you should be able to, right? So, yeah. This card's good. I think this is... Like, in Limited, it's okay. It's not, like, you know, fly over the moon fantastic. This is like a 2 out of 5. If you have some vehicles that are going to work out for you, sure. Maybe like a 2.5 or like a 3. In Standard, though, I'm going to put this up there with like a 4. This is going to be a cornerstone. This should be a 4 of in any sort of, you know, vehicle heavy. I think blue-white. I think Azorius vehicles could be a deck that sees some play. I think it could be very aggressive and very, very controlling, very strong, very nice. Yeah. I think this could definitely see play. So don't be surprised. But I do think there's a card that is better than this. We will get to it when we do. When we do. Towards the end, I think. Imperial Oath is another card. It's a 6-mana sorcery, you make 3, 2/2, let's see, Samurai creature tokens, and they're white with vigilance, and you scry 3. Okay, that's pretty plain. Scry 3 is nice and, you know, unlimited thing, because if you're paying 6 mana, and you're making 3 2/2s, which is kind of meh for 6 mana, usually you want like 1 or 2 big bodies, not 3 little bodies. Vigilance is cute, I guess, doesn't really seem too important. But the Scry 3 is like, hey, you're already later into the game, you need something else to back this up, and we're going to try to find that. Instead of just, here's a 3 2/2s, and this card's garbage. So this is okay. This is like a 1.5-ish out of 5 card. You want to do more with the 6 mana, hopefully this can find that, but this is not your curve topper by any means. And for that in Standard, it's useless. Imperial Recovery Unit, another vehicle, hooray! So, for 3 mana, you get a 3/4 with crew cost 2, and whenever it attacks, return target creature or vehicle card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Cool. It does have to attack. It is not whenever this is crewed, which would be insane, because in response to removal, I crew this thing. Well, actually, no, because they would still... that would be crewed, and then you'd have to have another creature in the graveyard already. But still, it'd be pretty damn good. This does have to attack, does have to potentially get in there. Geez, yeah, because if it was just when it was crewed, then you wouldn't even have to attack. It'd just be tap this creature, get one from the graveyard. That'd be busted. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's not amazing there. The fact that you do have to get it into the, you know, into the red zone there is a little tricky, but it's all right. I think it's like a 2 out of 5, maybe unlimited, maybe 2.5 out of 5. It's okay there, but it doesn't really contribute much more than the 2 you already have to pay to crew it. In Standard, it's not really all that good. If it put the creature onto the board instead of into your hand, fantastic. Doesn't do it. Not as fantastic. 1 out of 5 Standard, 2 out of 5 limited. Imperial, oh, we're still Imperial, but this time we are being subdued by this creature. It is a Human Samurai, a 3-mana 3/2 Human Samurai to be precise. And again, the 1-man army, the Samurai stands alone. If the Samurai warrior attacks alone, tap target creature you don't control. Okay. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. You can use this in limited to continually, just attack with this, I guess, or some other one, and tap down your opponent's strongest creature. But as soon as they have 2 medium creatures, you kind of hurting there. And Standard is useless, and limited it's like a 1, if anything. Intercessor's Arrest. I was gonna say ancestors, like no. Intersectors? No. Intercessor. Okay, sure. 3 mana for an aura. Enchanted permanent, not just creature. Can't attack, block, or crew vehicles. And his activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. This is your, maximum pacifism. So, yeah, pretty much your premier, if I didn't already say it before with the other one. Very, very solid white removal in limited. In Standard, these effects don't see any play, so ignore that. But in limited, in Standard, for whatever reason, you just want the creature or the thing off the board. You don't want it to be there where it could potentially be more annoying later on. Sorry, throat's getting a little rough there, but we're gonna power through. But yeah, in limited, absolutely 3.5, 4 out of 5, just good removal. You take it every time. In Standard, it's not gonna see any play, unless it really matters that this thing's an enchantment. and I think the days of enchantments matter to that degree have come and gone since Theros Beyond Death. Okay, Invoke Justice. Here we go. 5 mana. We're getting a lot of. I know this is the white review, so obviously they're all going to be white cards, but we're getting a lot of specifically white mana in these costs, and it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to push mono white or just monocolored decks in general. We'll see. Silver 5 mana. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Permanent. Not necessarily a creature. Doesn't have to be a creature. It could be a land. It could be a vehicle. It could be something else that's a permanent. The Planeswalker. Then distribute 4 +1/+1 counters among any number of creatures and or vehicles target player controls. So this is encouraging you to go kind of wide. But the cost there means that in Limited, you're playing this in mono white. And it's not even a bad card to play in mono white, honestly. Just for that second ability, you're pretty happy to see it. So like 4 out of 5, maybe even 5 out of 5. This is a super solid card. You don't actually because it says then, you do have to fulfill the first requirement. But I mean, how hard is it to get something into the graveyard? Any creature. Attack. Oh no, that was a poor block that, you know, I didn't figure you're gonna block with that creature. Okay, sure. Pay this now. Pump my guys. Put the creature back on the board. We're good, right? Let's see now. In Standard, this is interesting because it's like reanimation in mono white, which I don't think is the most common thing to see. Of course, if you want the thing to be in the graveyard, then usually you either want to cheat it there with blue, which has some sort of like, you know, self-mill discard, or black with similar self-mill discard, or red with just discard effects, you know, rummaging and such. Yeah, so this wouldn't go into any of those things unless you're just running 2 colors in Standard. Maybe you could, but then I think there are better ways to reanimate, although you could run this alongside the other, like, geez, I wouldn't run this in 3 colors, that'd be very, very taxing. Maybe just 2 colors and have, what's that, Olivia's Revivify thing, and if it's a, I forget what exactly it is. It's a 5 mana reanimator thing. It has a picture of Olivia on it as she's like giving blood to Edgar. So, there's the thing there. But yeah, I don't think that reanimation. I tried to make it work. I failed, unfortunately. Wanted to make it, didn't quite happen. So yeah, not crazy. In Standard, it's like meh. It's like a 1.5-ish kind of card. Kitsune Ace. Is it Kitsune? I'm gonna say Kitsune. I'm gonna say with Kitsune. I'm pretty sure that's right. 2 mana 2/2 Fox Pilot. Cool typing. You know, we got a good old Firefox here. Whenever a vehicle you control attacks, choose one. That vehicle gains first strike on the turn, or you can untap this creature. Okay, it's neat. It's fine. Doesn't really seem crazy relevant there. It's a bear otherwise. So 2 out of 5 and limited because it's just 2 mana 2/2 with potential upside. Standard, no, I don't know. Kyodai, the Soul of Kamigawa. This is one of a few cards that, although they are mono, the casting cost is mono white. Anyone that has ever played EDH or Commander will tell you that you should call it Commander, and that that is the more casual but also kind of like accepted name. And people that call it EDH, I believe, are known as tryhards, but I usually call it EDH. So am I a tryhard for a format I don't play? Weird. But they will tell you that the color identity is Wooburg right there because it has the other mana symbols on the card. Anywho, I will address this as though you were playing it in a mono-white deck, and I will review it again in the multicolored and colorless review. So, fair enough, right? 4 mana for a 3/3 legendary dragon spirit with flash and flying. When this enters the battlefield, another target permanent gains indestructible for as long as you control Kyodai. I'm also going to assume you can't play Wooburg in Limited. It's going to be very difficult to do so. If you can, congrats, you deserve to win. But anyway, so this is 4 mana, flash it in, save something, and maybe also block. Odds are you're going to be saving something in combat. And you're also developing your board, which is pretty good. Even if they do end up killing, you know, Kyodai here, you still saved the creature unless they're killing it at instant speed. Like, they have to have another kill spell out there right away, or just a kill spell. So it does cost them. And that's pretty good. I think 4 mana flash flying is perfectly sustainable and limited. Nothing wrong with that. Like 3.5 out of 5, maybe even 4, if you can get some pretty good value off that ability. In Standard, I think it is a bit too much to pay. We already have the one that phases all your things out, which essentially makes them indestructible for a little while. For the turn, not for as long as it's on the board, but this is easy enough to remove that it's not really going to be much of a difference, except the other one is cheaper. I think it's like Spirit of Valor or something along those lines. I don't know. It's like a knight-looking thing that comes in, has flash and flying for 3. It's like a 3/2. So, yeah. And doesn't have to survive either, it just phases them out. I think that card outclasses this quite handedly. Unfortunately, but that's what it does. So for that, in Standard, I'd put it like a 2. In Limited, though, like 3.5 or 4. Light Paws, Emperor's Voice. You remember where I said there's a lot of words in this set? That I say it in this take or another one, who knows? There's a lot of words. 2 mana, Legendary Fox Advisor. And it's a 2/2. Here we go. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, if you cast it, you may search your library for an aura card with mana value less than or equal to that aura. I know this looks like greater than or something. I'm trying to do equal to, but it's tough to... Equal sign. And with a different name than each aura you control. Put that card onto the battlefield attached to Light Paws, Emperor's Voice. Then do the shuffle for all that hard work. And whatever the shuffle is, I think it's some sort of kind of moving back and forth maneuver. So yeah, you want to have auras specifically, not just enchantments, because they can be enchantment creatures. Enter the battlefield. And then you can search for one that costs less, that's unique, and throw that on there as well. Let's see here. And it says if you cast it because it doesn't trigger off its own ability. There we go. Okay, I was trying to figure out why or how it didn't start a whole chain, and it doesn't. And it has to be attached to this creature in particular. That's just super, super weird. And the thing about auras, unless they have channel like Born to Drive did, which is kind of nice, where you can also do something else with it, it doesn't have to be stuck on a creature, is that you want to run a good number of auras, you want them to be different, but you also want to run creatures and targets to put the auras on. I mean, it's nice if you manage to also use, like, not invoke that here. If you manage to throw this on your opponent's creature, and then you also get to buff this creature at the same time, cool. But I'm not too keen on this. At the end of the day, it's a 2-mana 2/2 with upside. Very, very situational upside, but sure, in Limited, there's a decent chance you're going to have a good variety of, one-ofs. A lot of your deck's going to be one-ofs, right? So this is going to have the best opportunity to make use of this. Whereas in Standard, I feel like if you want an aura, you want that specific aura. This can kind of tutor for it. If you have a really cheap one you want to get, but if not, you're playing more expensive ones, just trying to get the cheap one onto this creature in particular. I don't love it. Don't love it at all. I'm going to put it at 2 out of 5. Both formats, actually. There's some potential there, but you know what? I don't know. 1 out of 5 in Limited. In Standard, this card's bad. In Limited, 2 out of 5 is fine. But in Standard, this card is not good, and it should get out of my sight, as it just did. Light the Way. Cost 1. 1 drops? What did I say? What? 1 cost? Choose 1. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature or vehicle and untap it, or return target permanent you control to its owner's hand. There is another theme in this set that I don't know if I mentioned that is called Modified. A modified creature or modified card, I should say, yeah, I think it's creature, yeah, is a creature that either has a counter on it, such as a +1/+1 counter. It could also be like a flying counter or first strike counter if you go back to Ikoria, or just other stuff. But any creature with a counter, anything that is equipped, or any creature that has an aura attached to it is considered modified and will usually give certain cards a little extra oomph if they actually care about it. So this will help with that synergy, which will hopefully run into those at some point so you can see an example of it. Or you bound something that you control to your hand, which can save it from removal, which is okay, it's not bad. For 1 mana, this is a very, very doable, very useful ability. And I feel like even if you just have this as buff a creature, untap it, block something, awesome. If you're attacking, you don't really, you can give it pseudo-vigilance and buff the creature. In Standard, I think this is going to be okay. I don't think it unclasses. I don't think it outclasses Snakeskin Veil by a mile. I think it's worth it more to just give the thing hexproof as well. But it's alright. In Mono White, you might see 1 or 2 of these. I wouldn't be too surprised. And in limited, card's good. Good card is good. 3 out of 5, both formats. This time I'm sticking to the both formats thing. Lion Sash is a 2-mana 1/1 artifact creature equipment cat. You will equip the cat. So, 2 mana, but you can pay 1 to exile a target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, put a +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. Not only does that work very nicely, oh, and reconfigure cost is 2, and the equip thing is you'd give that buff to whatever you're equipped to. So, basically, Scavenging Ooze, eat your heart out, because it doesn't have to be creatures in particular. It can be any permanent from any graveyard, and it gets buffed at sorcery speed. And this is in a different color entirely. This is in white as opposed to green. So yeah, this is not a bad card at all. This can just get buffed and go crazy, and it's pretty easy to do. It's also controlling the graveyard. It can also pass those buffs along to something else for 2, which is not bad. In limited, I usually run into the issue where I imagine there are going to be more cards in the graveyards than there end up being. I usually think, oh, there's going to be at least 5 cards in the graveyard. Usually 3 or so are going to be permanents. No, it's more like there's going to be 2 cards in each one. One of them might be, one of them not. Who knows? Unless there's a really long game going back and forth, trading off resources, or for some reason lands keep dying. I don't know why that would happen. So in limited, not as good. Acknowledge that. This is like a 1.5, maybe a 2 out of 5 limited. Probably a 2. I'll say a 2-mana 1/1 that can become a 2/2 or a 3/3. I'll put that at 2 out of 5. In standard, this card's good. This card's good. Don't count on this thing running away with the game, but if you really want to control the board, rather control the graveyard, then this is your go-to. Certainly, if you're running white, and I like that it's just white. You can just play this in white. It doesn't have to be white and green or white and black or something, which could very well have been the case. So, yeah, standard, 3.5, 4 to 5. I think it's going to be more of a sideboard card, or just an aggro card. But I think it'll be a card that we will see have some play. Lucky Offering! Oh, look at that cat. Look at that. It's kind of weird. It's almost like a person, kind of anthropomorphized, kind of not. Somewhere in between. Makes me feel uneasy. So, it is a 1-mana sorcery, destroy target artifact with mana value 3 or less, and you gain 3 life. Cool. There's cheap artifact creatures. There's kind of cheap vehicles. There's other things you might want to blow up. This is going to be weird, because if an aggressive thing comes out, and we see a lot of play with Portable Hole, you're going to be playing this, as well as Portable Hole, to destroy your opponent's Portable Hole, and that... Portable Hold or Portable Hole. Probably can't do that, but still. Just a little funny Inception sort of thing there. But otherwise, it's okay. In limited, it's alright. I wouldn't really want to run too many of these. Even though it is cheap to run, it still takes up a space in your deck that you might not want this to take up. So, I like a 1.5 out of 5 there. It probably has a target, but if it doesn't, or if you get it too late where your opponent's just playing bigger things, ouch. In standard, yeah, I could see this being in the sideboard if your opponent's playing, very aggressive, white and artifact. Just an aggressive thing that has some artifacts in it. Cool. You blow it up, you gain 3 life. What more? What's not to love? Sideboard card, though, for sure. Like a 3 out of 5 sideboard card. March of Otherworldly Light. Or you got a Totoro, you got something with a head kind of cut off, you got a frog, you got a lantern. Look at this, all the people. All the spirits just getting together for one good old parade. So, you can pay X and white. Oh, this is one of these, okay. There's a cycle of these where you can pay additional cost by exiling cards of the same color from your hand. And each one of those contributes 2. So, instant speed. I'll reread this. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may exile any number of white cards from your hand. The spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. And the actual effect is exile a target artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less. So you exile one thing. But if you want to exile a bigger thing, and say you missed a few land drops, or is just so big your opponent ramped, or you want to do more things this turn, you can exile cards from your hand, and each one of those contributes 2 of them. So say you want to exile a 4-drop. You can either pay 5 mana, or you can pay 1 and then exile 2 white cards. It's a pretty nice way to do that. If you have more cards in your hand, then you can, of course, just exile more things or play them afterwards having saved that mana. In Limited, this is a nice way to get rid of cards that don't really have any effect on anything. Say you had a few of these, and oh no, my opponent's not playing any artifacts, or the artifacts they're playing are too big. Cool, dump them to this, use it as removal. Solid card there. I actually like this a lot. I think this card is very nice, but the cost to play it is huge, which I think has to be if you're giving that sort of versatility. So yes, and more yes, and Limited, I think this card is just great. Even if you don't pitch cards to it, you pay 1 extra to remove a creature. Hey, you know what? There's worse cards. So, yeah, 3 out of 5 Limited. Standard, I'm going to say 2. I think this can see some play. I don't know necessarily if it will, because white isn't usually a color that is known for card draw to replenish your hand. Just saying. But if you play this in maybe Azorius, maybe Esper, you can make it work. We just have to see what the right number of white cards in that deck would be. Because if it's Esper and you're only running, like, you know, a handful of white cards, this isn't going to make the cut. But hey, still pretty cool. 2 out of 5 standard. Midjiko's Reign of Truth is a 2-mana sorcery. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each artifact and or enchantment you control. And those are the first 2 chapters. You know what? There's a lot of artifacts. There's a lot of enchantments. This is an enchantment, so at least it does something. And there's like the cheap artifact creatures and enchantment creatures even, so do not dismiss that. That could be a sizable buff. And then for chapter 3, you get the Portrait of Midjiko. It's a 0/0, but I guess that basically the first 2 things. +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. So it just grows with things. She counts herself, of course, so she would never die if everything else is cleared, but of course she's a creature, so odds are if everything else is getting cleared, she's going to. Really just not bad. Pretty valuable card if you look at it. I wouldn't dismiss this, even though the buff is only for a turn. It's a pretty decent sized buff, I think. If you manage to get quite a few things, you can easily play this on like turn 3 or 4 and get a good buff, or even just play it on turn 2, buff something up, hey, and get Midjiko out pretty quickly. Legit card, like 3 out of 5 Limited. Standard, I have to confess here, I did watch the Magic Aid video where it plays this card in a Boros aggro deck with a lot of artifacts and these enchantments, and it performed pretty well. So I'm being a little biased towards that and saying that this card isn't bad at all. I would give this like a 3 out of 5. 3.5, but more so 3 out of 5 in Standard. Moth Rider Patrol. I told you there's going to be a few 1-drops. Here's a 1-drop. 1 mana, 1/1 flyer. You can also pay 4 to tap target creature and tap this. Okay. When this card stops being relevant, then you can pin something down. In Limited, this card's fantastic. It's great. 3 out of 5 there. I love it. It's a fantastic body to just get some early damage in there, pin down your opponent's big things later on, and also throw some buffs on it. Equip it. It already has that evasion. A 1 mana, 1/1 flyer with upside. Fantastic. I love it. Yeah, and Standard also, great card. Like 3.5, maybe even 4. Like, this card's very, very legitimate. Do not let the fact that it's a common or the low stats dissuade you. It's a 1-drop. All you need to do is put 1 mana into it, and we will. Norika Yamazaki, the Poet. Okay, maybe just Norika Yamazaki? Sure, I'll try to say it a little more smoothly. 3 mana, 3/2, Legendary Human Samurai with Vigilance. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you may cast target enchantment card from your graveyard this turn. You still have to pay the cost to cast it. It doesn't get rid of the casting cost, but you can do it. Okay. Has to be equipment. I mean, there are quite a few creatures that are also equipments in the set, which is kind of cool. But, I mean, I guess you could also have it attack alone, target Maul of the Skyclaves, equip it, you know, have it come to the battlefield, and then equip it to the creature, although it doesn't have flash. So that wouldn't work. That would not work. And that's why I don't like it. Yeah, okay, don't like this card. 1 out of 5 Limited, 0 out of 5 Standard. There we go. Regent's Authority. I should just have like a little picture on the screen. I just play whenever there's a 1-drop. Like 1-drop alert. This is your 1-drop alert. So, 1 mana instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 on a turn. If it's an enchantment creature or legendary creature, instead play +1/+1 counter on it, and it gains +1/+1 until on a turn. So, either way, the thing gets +2/+2. but if it's an enchantment creature or legendary creature, one of those lingers behind and also triggers modified stuff. It's okay. It's okay. In limited, this is perfectly fine. This is nothing wrong with this at all. This is like a 2.5 kind of card out of 5. In standard, this isn't great. I would prefer some more protection, like, you know, Snakeskin Veil giving hexproof, versus just a buff. It's a decent sized buff, but it is just a buff. So even though the 1-drop alert would have gone off here, I don't think this card is super powerful. So like 1 out of 5 limited, and 2.5, 3 out of 5 in standard. Repel the Vial is a 4-mana instant. Choose one, either exile target creature with power 4 or greater, or you exile target enchantment. This is your standard kind of way white removes things. Exiling is nice. Usually you see this kind of thing, just destroying, but it would be like destroy a target tapped creature or whatever, you know, and it's okay. It's not bad. It's decent removal for later on. Yeah, limited, cool, like 3.5 out of 5. Yeah, I would take this. Nothing wrong with that. Standard, useless. Selfless Samurai. They're just better things that cost less, that do better stuff. Okay. 2 mana, 2/2 Fox Samurai. Whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gains lifelink until the end of the turn. Okay. Or, another thing, you can sacrifice this, and another target creature you control gains indestructible on another turn. So, that last part's nice. That first part is largely irrelevant. I use life as a resource, and gaining more of it is nice, but not really so crucial most of the time. Until it reaches 0, and then I'm like, damn, I wish I had one more life. But yeah. This card's okay if you really want to try to push that. I honestly think that the whole, like, the warrior stands alone archetype or like deck building, you know, constraint theme is only going to be relevant and limited, which is going to be where it might be hard to pull off. But it'd be like, well, I got these cards, not that great, but here I happen to trigger this ability now. That last ability we already know is fantastic. Selfless Savior says hello, but this just has that but costs 2. So 2 mana 2/2 versus the 1 mana 1/1. Yeah, this card's very nice in that sense. But in that sense, it doesn't exactly do a whole... Like, it costs more for that ability, which is a lot. An extra mana is considerable. So in standard, I'll put it at like a 1.5, maybe a 2, just because the second effect is good, but it might be a little too expensive for it. In limited, card's actually really nice. Like, yeah, definitely good. So, like a 3 out of 5. Seven-Tail Mentor. Costs 4 for a 2/3 Fox Samurai. Whenever this enters the battlefield or dies, put a +1 counter. I love how the second... I say +1, the first time is fine, but the second +1 just kind of gets like mumbled away under the rug. Put a +1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. So ETB, put a counter on something, could be a 2, could be a 3/4 if you don't have anything else. And then when it dies, you put something on something else. Cool. Standard, it costs too much for what it does, so it's useless. Limited, it's okay. Look at 2 out of 5, not bad. Buff some stuff, some creatures, some vehicles, do things. Live your life. Sky Blessed Samurai is a 7 mana 4/4 flying enchantment creature. However, it costs 1 less to cast for each enchantment you control. So it has affinity for enchantments, of all things. The prospect of having a 1 mana 4/4 flyer is amazing if you have 6 other enchantments. Well, that's tough to do. That is very difficult to do. Not only because they're like you might believe that, okay, there's enchantment creatures as well as enchantment auras as well as just sagas that haven't flipped over yet. So yeah, there's plenty of different types of enchantments basically, but them being creatures sometimes is a liability. It makes them much more easier to remove. I don't think you'll have 7. I think you will, or 6. I think you could likely have 1 or 2. Sure. And if you have 2 of them, being a likely scenario, then this would cost 5 for a 4/4 flyer, which is just fine. So I think this is like a 1.5 out of 5 in limited. Even if you have a deck chock full of enchantments, I don't know if this is really gonna, you know, make it to the point where it's so cheap it's amazing. In limited, not limited, in standard, you could build towards enchantments. Do we want to see enchantment affinity like this? It might be worth it. Honestly, it might be worth it. The fact that it's enchantment itself is really nice. If it wasn't, then you'd be like, I want to play enchantments and things that work with enchantments. Here's a creature that doesn't do that. But it does do that because it's actually an enchantment creature. You know what? 3 out of 5. You know what? 4 out of 5. I think this card's fantastic. Could be a 1 mana 4/4. Might be a 1 mana 4/4. This card's cool. I'm going to go ahead and say that 4 out of 5. I'm not going to go all the way and say 5 out of 5. I'm not crazy. Not that crazy. I'm a little crazy. I'm 3 out of 5 crazy. I'm 4 out of 5 crazy. Spirited Companion. Oh, look at this lovely fluffy boy. Oh my goodness, and it's got some kind of treat spirit thing in his mouth. Oh, it's just great. 2 mana 1/1 for an enchantment creature that's a dog. Enters the battlefield, draw a card. Look at that. Look at that. We fixed white card draw, all in one card, all in one lovely, awesome 11 out of 10 card. Ah, perfect. Perfect thing. In all seriousness, the card's not bad. Like 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5 limited. Standard, it's okay. It's not fantastic, but if you have that enchantment synergy, maybe. It's white card draw, that's always good and hard to find. Card's good. Like 2 out of 5 there too. Nice. Sunblade Samurai. I kind of like this, like lightsabers, jeez. For 5 mana, you get a 4/4 enchantment creature, human samurai with vigilance, and a channel ability. You can pay 2 and discard it. Search the library for a basic plains card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. You gain 2 life. So if you're running low on mana, or you really need to get that health or something, you really want to make sure you hit that 3-drop, then you can do that. Or you can wait a few turns and play it as a creature. It's cool. It's alright. I don't hate it. I like the mana searching ability, which is kind of interesting in white. You know, kind of reminds me of the Font of Melodith, or the Birth of Melodith, not the Font of Melodith, my bad. How it just searches for planes and you gain life, you know, kind of very, very apt comparison. Yeah. Card's fine. Card's fine if you're playing like a longer game with white. Otherwise, I don't really see what you're doing there. So in limited, it's cool. It's like a... I like that the channel doesn't actually cost any white, so if you're playing multiple colors, you can use that to mana fix a little bit to get the white to play another one later on. Yeah, like 2 out of 5. 2.5 out of 5 in limited. It's cool, cool. In standard, not very good. 5 mana for 4/4 vigilance isn't great. Just that channel ability isn't great. Card's not great, like a 1 out of 5. The Fall of Lord Konda. Konda? Konda. Definitely Konda. What am I talking about? Is a saga that costs 3. Chapter 1. Exile target creature and opponent controls with mana value 4 or greater. Okay, it costs 3, but you're getting rid of 4 or greater things. It might sit in your hand for a turn, but doable. Chapter 2. Each player gains control of all permanents they own. Okay, probably already the case, but sure. Chapter 2, we'll do that. And then Chapter 3. We have this become a 1/3 defender, and when it dies, you draw a card. Oh. Well, that's not... This is really, this is quite front-loaded, isn't it? Pay 3 for the removal, maybe something happens in Chapter 2, and then Chapter 3. It's white card draw. Don't get me wrong, it is. Get a defender, it's not bad. You clog up the board for a little bit, maybe. I don't think this is good in standard. I think you just want to remove things, regardless of mana value. There's probably going to be plenty of, like, you know, 1, 2, or 3 drops that are, you know, putting a thorn in your side, and guess what? You can't remove it with this card. You can try to wait till turn 3, and then you get this thing. Nah. In limited, this card's fine. I would play 1, maybe 2 of them, but I would definitely not play more than 2. I'd probably only play 1, because it's conditional removal, it takes a little while, and then it eventually replaces itself. Meh. The Restoration of Aegonjo. The Restoration of Aegonjo is a 3-mana saga that I think is actually worth something, as opposed to this one, which I think is worth not much. But this one. Chapter 1, search your library for basic planes, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Cool. So we're searching for mana. Okay, we're getting mana. Chapter 2, you may discard a card. When you do, so if you don't discard a card, then Chapter 2 does nothing. But if you do, then when you do, return target permanent card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This, I love that they actually ordered it this way, so you can search your planes the first time you play it. Then the second turn, you can discard the planes and have it come back to the battlefield tapped and ramp for turn 5. I guess, yeah, because turn 3 you play it, turn 4 you do the ability, turn 5 you can use it. But still, you can ramp. It pretty much always has some use. And then the last part of this, is 3/4 vigilance, and when it attacks or blocks, you make a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. This is a fantastic card to like just all with, honestly. I think this is great. Not only does it pull a card out of your deck to help you, ramp. Maybe you can play this on turn 4 even, or turn 3 and get your 4-drop. Get your 4 mana play. But you can reanimate something that costs 2 or less just because you want to? Hell, that's awesome. And it gives you a really solid blocker or attacker, really solid way to kind of develop the board more. This card's great. I love this card. Hello? Did I... Oh, okay. I think we had a little bug there with the thing, but we may have recovered. So anyway... Yeah, this card's great. I think this card's fantastic. Definitely like 4 out of 5 unlimited. I love it. Maybe I like it a little too much, but I think it's great. In standard, it's kind of expensive. You gotta wait a little while, but in standard, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I like it. I'm gonna try to make it work. If I don't, I'll understand. I'll be understanding. I hope I open them and don't have to craft them, but I definitely want to put at least 2 of them into a deck and see how it goes. The Wanderer, yes, you may remember this card. So, back from War of the Spark, there were rumors that this card might have been Emrakul. We didn't know who it was. They didn't even have a, a Planeswalker, like, type, like, Tamio, who's in the set, spoilers, I guess, as, legendary Planeswalker Tamio. This is just, we don't know. Could have been anybody. Well, I'm sorry to say that this is not Emrakul, confirmed not Emrakul, confirmed not anything else. This actually is the Wandering Emperor. The story behind that is that her spark awakened because scary thing happened, and she doesn't exactly... See, a lot of Planeswalkers have to muster up a good amount of energy, a good amount of power and focus to use their Planeswalking ability, but they can do it, and they can go wherever they like, more or less. The Wandering Emperor has sort of the opposite issue, where they don't know when or where they're going to Planeswalk, but it just kind of happens. They don't have to expend any use, they just kind of blink around. So she's been wandering around for quite a while, trying to find her way back to Kamigawa, and she's been scattered across the plains, basically. So, for 4 mana, you get, well, you know what, let me just go ahead and say, before I even go any further, I think this card's fantastic. Yep, that's the new thing up there. I put a trophy up there. Look at that. I'm improving production value while extending watch time. So, for 4 mana, you get a 3 loyalty Planeswalker with Flash. I'm just going to say right here, the reason I gave it the trophy is because it had Flash. If it didn't have Flash and that ability that made sense with Flash, this card would be meh. But I think just the versatility of this is great. As long as the Wandering Emperor enter the battlefield this turn, you may activate her loyalty abilities anytime you could cast an instant. So, yeah, just the turn it comes in, you can do the loyalty abilities whenever. Then after that, it's just on your turn, as usual, like sorcery speed. +1 is put a +1/+1 counter. On up to 1 target creature, it gains first strike on a turn. -1, make a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. And I hesitate to call this the ultimate ability, but just -2. Exile target tapped creature, you gain 2 life. For 4 mana, on your opponent's turn, in response to them attacking, in response to them declaring attackers, you can either block with a creature, flash this in, buff it, hopefully it, lives, and it also gives a first strike, so odds are you're going to win that combat. And you have the Wandering Emperor down. You have a Planeswalker. You can -1, make a blocker, block with that. Maybe you get a trade there, cool. You can -2 and just remove the creature entirely. This is fantastic in combat. Or just being aggressive. You can be like, hey, you know what? My opponent wiped the board, end of your turn, flash this in, make a 2/2. Oh, I'm attacking now? Cool. Flash this in, buff my creature. Whatever. It's so good. It adds a +1/+1 counter as well. So you can reasonably do this at the end of your opponent's turn and still do the +1 ability and not feel bad that, oh, well, the first strike's only for the turn. Yeah, but the creature's still buffed. This card's fantastic. This card is insane. Absolute bonkers bomb. Like, can win the game on its own. It'll take a little while, but just the value that you get for just +1, -1, -2, 4 mana, instance. I can go on. Definitely 5 out of 5. I'm going to say 5 out of 5 both ways. Standard, limited, whatever set you're playing this in. I think, whatever format, I think this card's great. Okay, I'm not going to say it for Legacy. No, you can hold off on that one. Will it see play in Modern? Maybe. I hesitate to say that, but like, just... It won't see play in Modern. Excuse me, there's Ragavan. There's one, there's... Yeah, they banned that in Legacy, but yeah. Modern Horizons 2 exists, which is basically just Modern. But this card's still fantastic in Standard. Amazing. Love it. And I think is the best card in White. Moving on. Touch the Spirit Realm is a 3-mana enchantment. Just enchantment. Just chills there. Cool. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature until this leaves the battlefield. So, removal. Basically. Cool. Alright, I like that. But we have more. If you choose to channel it for 2 mana, exile target artifact or creature, and return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, if you want to pay 1 less mana, you can get rid of something for a little bit. Or you could pay 3 mana and get rid of it for hopefully a little bit more. A little bit longer. Yeah, in Standard, this is decent. This is not bad. The fact that this is temporary removal, you know, here and there, but you really can't counter it so well. It just definitely flickers your opponent's creature. Yeah, that's nice. Actually, target thing. You can even target your own if you want to. Yeah, card's pretty solid. 3 out of 5 in Standard, I'd say. Man, 2.5-ish, 3 out of 5. And then in Limited, like, yeah, this card's nice. It's 4 out of 5. It removes things. And odds are they're going to stay gone if you just plop this down. Also counts as an enchantment for things that care about enchantments. Wanderer's Intervention is a 2-mana instant. Deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. This is your bog standard. They've seen this. I think they've had like Gideon's Intervention or Gideon's Riposte or whatever. Divine, whatever. You see this all the time in White. It's fine. In Limited, this is cool. Like a 3 out of 5. Standard, it's not worth anything. But, hey. When we were young, I believe this is the final card. Yes, so we will be done shortly. When we were young, back when this review started. 4 mana, instant speed. Up to 2 target creatures, each get +2/+2. Until end of turn. If you control an artifact and an enchantment, which is the second time we've seen that line, those creatures also gain lifelink. I like that they just said, like, if you fulfilled this kind of niche thing, then you get this kind of not as important thing. Whereas they could have flipped it around and said up to 2 target creatures because lifelink, and then that'd be super bad. This is acceptable. This is reasonable. The buff is actually pretty good because just +4/+4 overall, which is not that bad at all. In Standard, it's useless. It costs too much and doesn't do enough, even though it does a good amount. In Limited, yeah, 2.5. If you manage to fulfill the second requirement there, then you almost certainly survive like another turn or 2 just with the life, if you're not even... if you're still having a hard time. And the buff there is good. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5 there. But, my friends, with that, I will say... We're done with the white cards! Hooray! We made it. Thank you so much for watching this. If you stayed through to the very end, thank you. You're one of the real ones. Thank you for the support there. And please stay tuned for other reviews coming soon. But until then, good night or morning, depending on where you are in the world. But as always, good luck.